Welcome back, Local Decision 2022, and we are getting down to crunch time as Election Day is coming up November 8th, and in studio with us is Dave Clark, running for Anoka County Commissioner District 6. Dave, thanks for stopping by.
Oh, most welcome.
Well, let's start out by letting you tell the viewers, your story and how you got to this point.
Cool. My bride and I have lived in Blaine for 31 years. All four of our kids went through the public school system, Madison Elementary, Northdale, Blaine High School. I've served the city of Blaine for nearly 25 years. I have 4 years on the park board and then 20 years as a city council member. So on that time on the city council, we dealt with a ton of different things, from infrastructure like sewer and water, upgrading county roads, to economic development, such as trying to recruit the Vikings when that was going on in different businesses, budgeting, long-term planning, development, all that stuff. My day job, I'm a business development manager for a hand tool company, and I've been with that company for 22 years. I've done product management, managed our roofing and siding channel, managed our relationship with Home Depot and Lowe's, done international, done our automotive. In all, I have over 30 years of management experience in the private sector. Got my bachelor's from Mankato, my MBA from St. Thomas. And I think when you look at the combination of local government experience with my private sector experience, I think I bring a pretty good skill set to the table.
What do you think are the pros and cons of Anoka County right now? We'll start with the pros.
The pros of Anoka County, it's a very efficiently run government. They get a lot of things done on very few dollars. Anoka County has held their tax levy flat for the last few years, which is an amazing accomplishment. They basically provide a good range of services.
And the negatives or the cons?
The con of that is, I want to take a deeper dive into that budget, because as Anoka County grows, we want to make sure that the budget is sustainable, that if there's, for example, the Helios study talked about, county employee wages and bringing them up to par. How do you, achieve that goal, compared to other things that are going on, other spending priorities. So I think that's an area that needs to be looked at. Economic development. I think the Anoka County is doing a good job in the aggregate, because the job of Anoka County is to promote the county as a whole. Whereas if, let's say, you're trying to put a McDonald's in your city, that's really kind of a city issue.
Yeah.
And you need to let the Anoka County government needs to let the cities carve out their own identity and have that local control. So Anoka County can help with economic development when it comes to things that spread across multiple cities or across the entire county.
So when you're out pounding the pavement and knocking on the doors and doing the meet and greets and shaking hands, what are you hearing from the residents?
In terms of issues, probably the biggest issue out there is Highway 65. And I would be shocked if you didn't get a candidate that talked about Highway 65, because everybody's talking about 65. Before I first got on the city council in '99, Highway 65 was at a level of service F. So it's been a long-term problem for the city. When I was on the council, we got the 3 bridges put in at 121st, 125th, and 129th. We built out frontage roads like Ulysses and Davenport so that people don't have to drive on 65 all the time. We took out some dangerous intersections. So interest in or momentum for improving the rest of Highway 65 has ebbed and flowed over the years. We've had plans for redoing 65 come back to our city council that say, hey, we like the plan, let's move forward, and things have stalled out. So momentum has come, momentum has gone, and hopefully this surge of momentum will do the charm.
And you're exactly right. I mean, Minnesota State Highway 65 is like the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
And
yes.
as you know, and all of our viewers know, it's a sea of red, as in red brake lights. How much is 65 holding Blaine back and the other cities in Anoka County, in the sense that Blaine, there's already good things here, but it can take the next step, right, when you get 65 up and running the way it should be?
Well, some people would say that it is greatly holding Blaine back. If you look at the history of growth in Blaine, when I got on the city council, we were at 45,000 people. When I left the city council, we were at nearly 70,000 people. The city has continued to grow. People still want to be here. We still are adding new businesses. So people are coming to the area. They like Blaine. Many years ago, it used to be called the trailer park capital of Minnesota. And we've shook that old reputation. And now people look at Blaine as the star of the North. I mean, you look at what's going on in Spring Lake Park. I mean, beautiful community with great neighborhoods. So people want to be up in this area.
So I know in your opinion, a lot of the cities in Anoka County, they are gems. How would you say Anoka County stands out in the entire metro area, Twin Cities?
Anoka County is, like I said, it's smaller in terms of population than some of the larger metro areas. Again, for the most part, I think Anoka County is well run. They're very good at keeping a lid on taxes and spending, which is near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. Do we always have the population density necessary for the things that we'd like to have? Not always.
But is that part of the appeal in the sense you have the charm and that exurbia feel in places like Ham Lake, and yet you get to Blaine and it's a definite suburb.
Anoka County is very, very diverse. As you
Right.
go towards, Columbia Heights, you have a highly diverse community. Blaine and Spring Lake Park today are far more diverse than when I ever ran for city council back in, the end of the 90s. So that diversity is there. Again, of course, you get up towards the northern part of the county. You've got different housing styles. You have people with a different lifestyle than you do down in Blaine or Coon Rapids. So there's a definite mix going on. And Anoka County is a very fast-growing county compared to other counties in the state. And that's going to bring challenges in the future in terms of, managing the budget, making sure that we've got the traffic or the infrastructure for transportation throughout the entire county.
And these are really polarizing times in a lot of ways. How do you make sure that every resident in Anoka County, whatever their race or their religion or their background is, feels welcome and accepted here?
Well, one, as I've demonstrated for 20 years on the city council, you have to have an open ear, be willing to listen to people, even when you don't agree with them. In terms of making people feel welcome, the best thing you can do is neighbor to neighbor. In my neighborhood, we've had 3 families that are of African origin move in. And, you go over and you introduce yourself, you say hello, and you start to make friends. And just that neighbor to neighbor thing really makes a big difference, as opposed to being cold and ignoring them. And, that's not the kind of community I want to live in.
What about green space, parks, open area? I'm guessing you want to preserve those.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. When, as on the city council, we built parks, we had the neighborhood park concept. We built lots of neighborhood parks. We have a trail system, that connects a lot of these parks, a lot of the neighborhoods. It's not everywhere, but we have a very good trail and sidewalk system. We have the open space preservation program. So when I was on the council, we went to the public and said, we'd like to preserve open space in the city, put it on the ballot. The voters gave it the thumbs up. So we got $3 million to set aside wetlands and green space so that the city doesn't feel overbuilt. So we were able to protect some areas. So where you can do that, I think it makes a ton of sense and it really adds to the community. I mean, you should see some of the parks in Spring Lake Park. They're gorgeous.
Yeah, and that would be another selling point of Anoka County, right? I mean, you have the Rice Creek chain of lakes. You have
Exactly.
so many areas that make you feel like you're in northern Minnesota, but you're in the Twin Cities metro.
Exactly. It's like the wetland complex that we built off of Lexington Avenue. It was a degraded wetland. We invested the money to upgrade the wetland. We put in the boardwalks. You can actually get out there and enjoy it, and it doesn't feel like you're living in a city.
Now, being on the city council in Blaine, I'm sure you got used to interacting with residents and people being in attendance at your council meetings. What about board meetings? Should there be more access to Anoka County residents?
Oh, there should always be access to Anoka County residents. I don't think that's a question.
What about public comment at the meetings?
I don't have a problem with public comment at the meetings. You know, people have a right to be heard. You know, at city council, you know, we had people come up and want to share their input all the time. You know, you need to put a time limit on how long people can go. You know, like Mayor Ryan was very good at saying, you know, at a certain point, you know, people keep repeating the same thing. And if people didn't have anything new, you know, they'd say, hey, we're going to move on and keep going. So, you know, I'm all in favor of having a process for that public input.
Keeping elections secure, making sure nothing's rigged. Is Anoka County good at that?
I think so. You know, I really like the fact that we have, you know, paper ballots. So if you ever have to do an audit, you can actually go back to the ballot and recount them. You know, the touchscreen only systems make me very nervous because there's no backup. If you get a power surge or something, you could lose all of that data. So I like the paper ballots. I think Anoka County does a very good job of following state law and guidelines and best practices for printing and handling ballots and making sure there's public testing of the equipment. So yeah, I think Anoka County does a good job.
And you are now actually running for Anoka County Board, District 6, so you feel good about the process.
Yeah.
What about Anoka County? There's red, there's blue. How do you bring it together and build the bridges between the different, you know, viewpoints and turn it purple?
Well, you know, I did that for 20 years on the city council. You know, you have, you know, red viewpoints, you have blue viewpoints. The key is you talk to each other and you listen, and you make compromises where you can make a compromise. You know, and I think that has to happen at all levels of government.
If you get elected, are there a couple bullet points you would like to get at right away and try to foster some change or improvement?
One of the things that I learned when I got on city council, you know, is I read all the minutes and I read all the stuff ahead of time, and I thought I knew what I was getting into. And once I actually got on council, I realized how little I really knew. And that first year was total learning process. You know, and you have to be diligent about reading the background material and asking questions and basically getting yourself up to speed. So through experience, I know that there's a lot of things I don't know and things that may not make a lot of sense to me now, that there's a whole set of logic behind how you get there. Again, you know, in terms of budgeting, I want to make sure that we're looking at a sustainable budget. You know, I like having public input into things because when you talk to people, people bring up things you may not have thought about, you know, and I think that dialogue is very helpful to the decision-making process. I'm not a believer in just saying, well, this is what the expert told me to do, therefore I'm going to do it. Because if that's your point of view, you're not necessary. The job of an elected official is to talk to this expert and this expert and this expert and these non-experts and make your own decision. That's called being accountable.
So you had a learning curve when you started out on the Blaine City Council.
Absolutely.
Do you expect one also on the Anoka County Board if you're elected?
Absolutely. For whoever gets elected to Anoka County Board, there will be a learning curve.
And is one of the keys just, as you said, listening, doing the background checks and reading the info
And asking
absorbing
questions.
things like
Yep.
almost like a sponge, right?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
And I've been told by a lot of the candidates that, look, you can't do it alone. You may go in with a grandiose idea, but you're probably going to have to find some middle ground or compromise along the way. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What would you like to tell the viewers before we wrap this up? You know, we're getting down to, you know,
It's
election
getting close.
day. Yeah. Anything you want to say to them?
Yeah. You know, I have, you know, a ton of local government experience. I think I have a very good track record. My commitment to public service is evident, not only, you know, by, you know, the 24 years of service I've given to the city, but just, you know, in responding to emails and phone calls and going out doing site visits over the years. So I very much like being in touch with what people do. So I think I bring the skills and experience and the history to the role that I think would make a person very successful on the county board.
Have you enjoyed getting out in the trenches and doing the door knocking?
Oh, I love doing the door knocking.
Grassroots stuff.
You know, every day that I talk to people and I learn something new, that's a good day.
And that could happen most days, right?
Exactly. It's all about learning. You have to keep growing as an individual. And again, my campaign, I'm trying to run a very positive campaign. I'm telling people, this is me, this is my background, this is what I believe in. I'm not out throwing shots at my competitor in the race. Too many races, they spend all their time just throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that way. I want to be that positive person that tells you who I am, where I lead, and let the voter make the choice.
So you're not going to throw shade at anybody or toss them under the bus. You're going to run on your own merits. And
That's what I've
let the
been doing,
dominoes
and that's
fall,
what I
right?
intend to do.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by, Dave.
You bet.
Good luck on Election Day. He's Dave Clark, running for Anoka County Commissioner, District 6. This is Local Decision 2022.